Hi, Jason. This is an automated assistant from FreshFlow Dental Clinic. We hope your recent dental checkup went well. We'd love to hear a little feedback if you have a moment. May I ask you a few quick questions?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Great. On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate your overall experience with FreshFlow Dental?
5.
Thank you for your response. Was our team professional and courteous during your visit?
Yes, they were very professional.
Thank you for that feedback. Did your appointment start on time?
Yes, it did start on time.
That's wonderful to hear. Is there anything we can do to improve your next visit?
No, everything was perfect.
Thanks so much, Jason. We really appreciate your time and feedback. It helps us serve you better. Have a great day.
If you want to build such a voice agent for collecting customers' feedback, then you should watch this video until the end. So let's start with creating some Google Docs. So what we need to do first is basically we need to create a Google Doc, which is going to act as our store for all the results. So basically we can create just a dummy Google Doc, which contains customer name, rating, staff professionalism, timeliness, and improvement suggestion. So this will be our data store. So whenever our agent speaks to a customer, then they're going to record the customer's answers into this spreadsheet. And then the other spreadsheet which we need to create, or the other Google Doc, is basically a Google Doc that contains the people and the numbers that we need to dial in. So basically, this spreadsheet is going to contain 3 different columns: first name, phone number, and then there will be a column which denotes if we have already contacted the customer or not. So once we have created these 2 spreadsheets, then the next step would be to go to VAPI. So VAPI is a website which allows you to build voice assistants. And if you don't have an account with VAPI, there is a link down in the description. You can click on it and sign up. It's completely free and you don't need to pay anything. So you get 1,000 free minutes per month, which you can use to create different assistants, and you can test your ideas before you actually productionize them. So what we want to do in VAPI is we want to create a new assistant. So let's see how this assistant looks. So I've already created the assistant, and in here I've selected the provider, which is OpenAI. So this will be our AI model behind the assistant, and we're using the GPT-4o mini model. So this is our system prompt, and it contains all the instructions on how the voice assistant should behave during the call, and all the questions that they need to ask. So you can see that there's 4 different questions which are listed in here, and these are the questions which you heard just a moment ago during the call. And yeah, so once the assistant collects all the answers to those questions, then the assistant is going to send all the answers to the webhook. And we're going to take a look at the webhook very shortly. So we're going to publish these 5 fields to the webhook, which are basically name, rating, staff professionalism, timeliness, and improvement suggestion. As you can guess, all these fields are present in one of our spreadsheets, which we created earlier. So basically, all the data will be fed into the appropriate columns in our spreadsheet. And last but not least, what we need to do is basically we need to add a function to our assistant, and this function will be responsible for publishing this data to our webhook. So this is how our function looks. So it's called feedback collection. You can give it any name that you like. And this is the description of the function. So it says this function is responsible for sending the following fields. And then if we scroll down a little bit, we can see that this function takes one parameter, and then this parameter is of type object. And finally, there's some server settings. So we're basically saying once you have all the information, then publish this to this webhook. So the next step is to go to make.com and create the webhook, which is responsible for collecting all the answers and ingesting them into our Google spreadsheet. And also we need to create a make scenario, which actually triggers all the calls to our customers. So this is our feedback collection scenario, and this scenario is responsible for basically triggering all the calls to our customers. So to start with, we have a Google Sheets component in here, and what this is doing is basically it's fetching all the records from our first spreadsheet, which contains all the customers. And we're saying that basically we're filtering on this field, which is called already. We just want to make sure that we only pull the customers which we haven't contacted already, and this is going to give us one record at a time. I guess you can set that to as many customers as you like. And once we have fetched a customer which we haven't contacted yet, then what we do is we need to modify the system prompt, because we want to make the system prompt very personalized. And you can see that the system prompt from VAPI is kind of duplicated here in make.com, and this is because we want to modify the system prompt slightly. So you can see we have some placeholders in here. So we say hi, and then we get the first name of the customer from our Google Sheet. And if we just scroll towards the bottom, you can see that the final message which the assistant conveys to our customers is again very personalized, and they refer to the customer by their name. And yeah, so after this, we need to define another variable, and this variable contains all the information for the assistant. So if we want to change the assistant's parameters, then this is the place. And yeah, so it contains an object which is assistant overrides. And again, you can see that the first message, which the assistant basically tells the customer, is again very personalized. So it starts with their first name. If we scroll to the bottom of this text, you will see that you need to define the assistant's ID, and you also need to specify the phone number of the customer who you want to call. And this is information that we're getting from our Google Sheet. And last but not least, you need to provide the phone number ID. So in one of my previous tutorials, I've explained in great detail how to obtain a phone number using Twilio and how to add it to your account. So I'm going to add a link somewhere on the screen, so you can go and watch this if you want to use a real phone number for this. And yeah, so once we have defined this variable, then basically what we need to do is we need to parse this into JSON. So what we do is we basically wrap this variable into square brackets. And after this, we're using the array aggregator. So from the array aggregator, what we want to extract is basically the following fields. So we want the assistant overrides, assistant ID, customers, and phone number ID. So these are basically all the fields which are present in this variable, which we defined earlier. And after this, what we want to do is we basically want to take this array and transform it to JSON. So we need this because we need to pass this JSON payload to the request for VAPI, because VAPI expects JSON payload. So the next step is to actually make a request to VAPI and create or initiate the actual call. So this is the URL for creating calls. It must be a post request. And then in here, you basically need to define authorization header. So the authorization header, basically, in order for it to work, you need to get your token from your VAPI account. So yeah, so in here, what you need to do is basically you need to paste your secret token from VAPI. So once you have added your secret token, then you need to define the body type. In our case, this is going to be raw body type. After this, the content type is going to be JSON. And what you need to do is you need to pass the JSON string, which was created from our previous component. You hit the save button. And the final thing is to make sure that whenever we call a customer, then we basically modify our existing spreadsheet or one of the columns in our spreadsheet just to make sure that we don't call the same customer more than once. And in here, we're basically using the feedback collection spreadsheet. We're setting the roll number. And then what we do is we say this column must be changed. And then this is the value which we're going to put in this column. And again, this is to ensure that next time when this scenario runs, we're not going to basically fetch the same customer from the Google Sheet, and we don't want to call the customer again. So once we have defined this make scenario, which is responsible for initiating all the calls to our customers, then what we need to do is we need to create another scenario, which will be much simpler than this one. And this scenario is responsible for collecting the customer's feedback and ingesting this into our second Google Sheet. So as you can see, this contains only two components. The first component is a webhook. And when you generate a webhook, it's going to give you this URL. And this is the URL that you need to copy and paste into the VAPI function, which I showed you earlier. And after this, what we need to do is we basically need to extract all the data from this webhook and pass it to our Google Sheet. So if we scroll a little bit, you will see that we have all the different fields in our Google Sheet. So customer name is mapped to this data that's coming from the webhook. And then the same logic applies for all the other columns. It's just that we need to extract the appropriate data field from this object. And once we have done this, then we're basically good to go. If you want to get this make template for free, you can click on the link down below in the description and download it. If you want to learn more about how to build make scenarios, how to create voice assistants or chatbots or any other automations, you can join my school community. Again, the link is down below in the description. It's completely free and you don't need to pay anything. Thank you very much for your time and see you in the next video.